Welcome back. The European Central Bank will inject at least 1.1 trillion euros into the ailing Eurozone economy. And that's good news for South Africa. The rand rallied after yesterday's announcement by the ECB. But analysts say there's more, as markets anticipate the improved liquidity will boost emerging country capital markets. And South Africa is one of them.
Despite substantially lower oil prices, South Africa continues to have a large current account deficit. For years now, that gap has been filled by foreign investors injecting capital into the country's stocks and bonds. But once the US Fed announced its plan to withdraw its $85 billion a month quantitative easing measure back in May 2013, emerging market currencies like the rand began to weaken as investors took their monies elsewhere. The ECB is to spend 60 billion euros a month on buying European government and other institutions' bonds in a bid to create liquidity, and it follows the Bank of Japan's decision to also adopt quantitative easing last year.
South Africa benefits because we are a small open economy with a large current account deficit that needs this foreign funding to fund our current account deficit and to keep our exchange rate stable.
The ECB's QE program is seen as a similar construct to that of the US Fed's. But the challenge is that the US Fed's policy applied to one country, while the ECB's program will be applied effectively to 19 countries with varied economic structures.
Because in the United States, you'll recall the debt ceiling debates. They got into Congress, they thrashed it out, and they actually by default ended up making some of those fiscal structural reforms. In Europe, it's not as clear-cut. You're dealing with different countries, you're dealing with different laws, an entirely different mix. And that, in my view, means that A, I think we're probably going to need more than the initial 1.1 trillion they've given us, but B, it's probably also going to take them a lot longer to try and put in place the underlying reforms in their economy to make sure that the gains are sustainable.
A debate continues to rage about whether QE, described by many as an experimental measure, really does positively impact the real economy.
The Fed actions did help mitigate against the worst consequences of the global financial crisis. If you look at the relative outperformance of the US economy and the UK economy, which were the first central banks amongst the G4 to pull the trigger on QE, those economies have definitely done better than other DM markets and are expected to continue to do so.
While serving as a temporary boost for South Africa's capital markets, analysts say the bottom line still remains. South Africa has got to get its economic house in order so as to ensure a more competitive climate and begin to realise its growth potential. Nompumelo Losiziba, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, at the same time, Asian stock market investors have celebrated the massive stimulus package.